would like to speak about digital fashion academia, self-promotion, cross-promotion, and conference promotion. And not maybe only about fashion academia, but academia in general, because as you know, nowadays, a scientist should be open-minded and should be always in the limelight and promote his or her research, to be cited, to be well-known, to enrich contacts, to have networking, maybe some international exchange programs, or to have other contacts to proceed with the scientific and academic work. The outline of our presentation, so we'll speak about the introduction, the workshop objectives, origin practices. Then there will be the main part of the presentation, some tips concerning hashtagging, mapping the field, mapping the audience, some affordances and hashtag practices. Then we'll discuss the main important things which can help you to engage the audience and be creative. And we'll discuss some Instagram suggestions. Our objectives is to understand and to practice hashtagging, and to understand that hashtags can be used for academic purposes, and to understand our objectives and how we can operate with them. So now I'd like to give a word to Katharina.
Thank you so much. So thank you everybody for being here. It's such a pleasure, and I hope the connection is stable enough for the duration of our exchange today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about hashtag origins. I just wanted to add very interesting comments that you just shared. And I wanted to also encourage you to understand that the fact that you have used it, if you have used it for personal reasons, that's actually great training. And we'll see later on why that is actually incredibly important. So just to explain what hashtags really are. So hashtags are a sequence of letters, numbers, symbols, possibly emoji. They're hypertext.
Hashtag practices, there can be a number of practices. The first one is trending. So try to use some popular viral context, trending topics, some memes, news, videos. So something that can attract people's attention. Archival purpose is that so when you want to connect historically with something, so allows you for memory sharing. You can get access to some context that has been used before, previously. And there was one example, a girl in fashion couldn't get some access to some archival materials, and then she posted a picture with some hashtags, and by chance she found that person who had some connections with those archives, and just by chance she was really happy to get that connection and to get the access to the material she needed. Then there can be different clusters of hashtags. Hashtags can be used in these two like bad purposes, like hijacking, when you take somebody's hashtag and use it in an appropriate context. So hijacking is the use of someone's hashtags, borrowing it. And while hashtagging, you should try to reduce the chance, the likelihood of someone's using your hashtag. So for this, you need to evaluate the situation. And some hashtags can be used in a negative aspect. For example, McDonald's had an attempt to launch the tag McD stories back in 2012. And actually, stories of unsanitary experiences and some descriptions of unhealthy products overweight anything positive. So then spamming. Also when you use overuse hashtags. For example, the overuse of hashtags can bring to the ban from the Instagram. And the hashtag Happy Thanksgiving was overrun with the spam, and all the content with this hashtag was flagged and turned into spam. So affordances actually is what hashtags afford to us, that we can use them as a tool, as an instrument for some purposes. So the first, the general affordance is becoming visible, searchable, retrievable for orientation and navigation, marking a topic for categorization. With the help of hashtags, you can create communities and you can categorize the topics you are interested in. And you, if you if you tap the hashtag, then you can find other people who have already used the hashtag for the same purpose. So it's referencing to itself other posts. Originally, it was used as metadata. But the negative side of it that it can be used as spamming. Linking people and communities together, so that's what we need, because we know when we go to conferences, our main idea is not to present maybe our talk, to present it to get some feedback, but the most important aim is to get connections, to get new ideas, listening to other presenters, and maybe to have some cooperation in the future. Emphasizing, so hashtags can be used to emphasize something. Then the placement of hashtag is not just enumerating them after a picture or something, but is using the hashtag in the context. For example, in the sentence, to use a hashtag in the middle of the sentence, emphasizing some ideas. I've analyzed Gucci and looking for some examples, but so for example, you use it in the sentence and use something like Gucci gang, Gucci addict, or motivation within the sentence. Promoting interpretations, both expressive and emotional. So hashtags can also be aimed at getting some feelings from those who perceive them. Judging and critiquing. So this function or affordance is not used for promotion, of course, but can be used when we evaluate something. Engaging and rallying. So these hashtags, when we use them when we want to attract attention to something, to rally against some campaign. For example, you know the hashtag, famous hashtag in fashion, "Who made my clothes?" that appeared after dramatic events in Bangladesh when there was an accident with the factory and a lot of people died and many were injured due to poor working conditions of people who were involved in clothing industry. And then, so a lot of people started to form a campaign, hashtagged "Who made my clothes?" So that to make companies accountable for the people, for the working conditions, for equal rights, proper wages, and other things. So then hashtags can be used as iterating and entertaining. They can be used for fun, again, as an entertaining function. So to popularize science, we need to bring some entertainment to attract the attention. They can be used for self-actualizing, for demonstrating creativity. Only creative hashtags and creative content is valued on Instagram. And actually, if you use the same hashtags or borrow hashtags from somebody, so your profile can be banned or you lose popularity, so you become less popular. And hashtags are used for general purposes, being compliant with social practices, being part of the community. Everybody uses social networks, and it triggers the idea of using it as well. And the same goes with hashtags. Before you start thinking what hashtags to use, you should understand your key audience. So whether they are students, whether this post is going to be dedicated to students, it can be, because it will help to keep the interest maybe to the subject you are teaching, to help you be closer to students, so that they can feel the interaction with the professor, and they can feel also their interest so in the subject. You can use hashtags for research clusters. If you want to be part of some research cluster, or you want to create a research cluster of your own, and you want to find people from all over the world who might be interested in this or that topic. So it can be for publishers. If you want to publish your paper, your book somewhere, for other academics in your field. There can be micro and micro content reach. Macro content reach usually involves something in general, and something that is common and can attract a lot of attention, or cannot attract any attention at all. So that's why micro content reach is much better, because it's more focused, and you can get popularity among a small group of people, but you can find the right people in this circle. Being as specific as possible with hashtags makes it easier to build a highly engaged audience. And here there are some examples, like My Day is a macro content reach. So it can imply everything, and all the people can follow you, or it can be considered as a spam. While My Day in HSE, so is more focused, and only HSE community will be interested in this. Academic life is a macro content, while academic life in HSE is micro. Women in academia, or Women in Academia 2021, so makes it more modern, up to date. PhD forum is a general or macro reach, while PhD forum HSE 21 is more focused. This is a cloud thing Katharina actually has prepared when we had the conference in Monte Verita in Switzerland in 2019. And so they have created their acronym for the conference, Factum 19. And these are the hashtags that people used for the conference. And then the conference, the next conference happened in 2021 in Spain, partly offline, partly online. So, and we can see that Factum, fashion communication, fashion research, communication conference, digital communication. So USI Life, USI is university, Università della Svizzera Italiana. So we can invent HSE Life. Yeah? Then we can see brand naming like Lorenzo Cantoni, any other names. Places as corner, mostly photos, so with some workshop, with people there. The materials you can find if you type on Google Factum 19. They have created so this abbreviation acronym, and it was used on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and other sources, and they have the special website dedicated to the conference. And on the special website, or for example, DFG, DFC, Digital Fashion Communication, you can find some papers, articles, books, researchers, research clusters, in Lugana community. The bigger the words, it means more frequently it was used. The more frequently it was used. For example, you see Factum 40 times. It was hashtag 40 times. It was actually a small conference, maybe around 30 people were present there. So communication conference, bigger words represent the fact that these hashtags were used more frequently, and smaller words represent the fact that they were used not that frequently, but still used. How does hashtag work? So it helps you to link with people, to find the right people, or to link with people from the same community. It helps to build the community. For example, if you organize some research cluster and you involve more and more people, and you have the brand hashtag for the community of your scientific circle, so then more and more people can join it. Or you can research, for example, if you are interested in some field of research, you can search for the hash if this field of research exists in terms of hashtagging. So you search, for example, on Instagram, the hashtag named after your field of research, and you try to find the community. And if you have found the community, you just press the hashtag, and you can see people involved, or what people post, what they are doing, and then you can write a direct message to them. So, for example, if you organize a conference, as the example here, they created the acronym that can be spread out. And for example, they say to the participants, so we have chosen this acronym and it stands for this, this, and that. And you're welcome to hashtag ours to take pictures and to post it. So in Switzerland, they work in a very good team. They have PhD students who are responsible for this promotion. And for example, during the conference, they took pictures of scientists, people in academia presenting their reports, their research, and they posted it immediately with some corresponding hashtags. So Instagram, there can be different profiles there, different accountants. It can be used for personal purposes, and then it is closed. So then you decide what people you want to befriend. And it can be used as a social and as a business. For educational purposes, or when you want to promote your service or something, you want to promote yourself as a scientist, you use it for, if I'm not mistaken, you can choose there in what sphere you are involved in, and you just mark in education. And so in your profile, you have a little description of yourself where you can write, for example, PhD, professor in what sphere, what you do. So some things in brief. And then your profile will be open. And if you post some academic content there, some conferences, the latest papers published, and you hashtag them properly, and you have references to other people, to colleagues of yours. So that's how it starts, the promotion itself. So they do create, they have hashtags about research, because I've told you when I arrived to Switzerland, I was a little bit puzzled if to add, because I had it only personal, if to add professor to my Instagram account. And why he's adding me. But actually later on, I understood that it works for academic purposes, not for personal, but mostly for academics. Their main aim in Switzerland is to promote their master's degree, because bachelor's degree are mostly for free, and they get money for master's degree. And it's all business-like. They don't open a master's degree just because they like the program. They open it because it might be competitive. They open this digital fashion communication because there is no PhD in this sphere and master's degree in Switzerland. Their closest competitors are Italians in Milan, Rome, and other cities. So, and education in Switzerland is quite valuable. So they started the market and decided to open this master's degree. And to promote it, they need to develop research in this sphere. They have a double degree program with Paris, Pantheon, if I'm not mistaken. So to promote it, they engage PhD students to promote it, to get or to recruit students from all over the world for the master's degree. So they need to promote it properly. They have their website. They use it on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, so Facebook, all these sources. And so they try to use hashtags properly. So Katharina,
I am back. I see that you've advanced quite a bit, and maybe I can just join in regards to the word cloud, in regards to the fashion communication conference that we both took part in. And one of the things that I thought was particularly interesting that I thought I should share with you is how personal some of these hashtags are. And it's something I mentioned at the beginning, how personal content actually creates engagement. And you can see that there's some of the main tags like fashion communication, digital fashion that are very important, but we also see quite a bit of references to the location, to nature, to food. So it's about sensory experiences and personal stories. So I just wanted to point out how important that is as well. And we'll go back to that later on. So I wanted to tell the story about how they started, and the first time a hashtag was created and used, and the system of hashtags existed really in 2007 on Twitter. And I also wanted to emphasize the reason that we're focusing on Instagram rather than Twitter, because a lot of academics are actually on Twitter. And I just wanted to compare the numbers, and I wanted to point out that there's over 1 billion users on Instagram. So there's actually far more users on Instagram than there are on Twitter. And even though Twitter has been predominantly used by academics because it's so text oriented. There's actually many reasons, as we'll see later on, as far as audiences goes, that Instagram has a great advantage over Twitter as well. And part of that is the relation to visuals and an increasingly visual culture. The other thing I wanted to mention is just the kind of parameters of Instagram. So on Instagram, just to be sure that you're aware, you can post up to 30 hashtags per post. If you use stories, in stories, you can use up to 10. So this is just to give you an idea of the general parameters. And since 2018, you can also add a hashtag to your profile. So you can have it in your bio as well. So I just wanted to give you those kind of key directions for the platform. One of the things I wanted to emphasize is, first of all, the connections to the academics in your field. So that was something that we also saw in the World Cloud for the fashion conference that we were just looking at before. Mention your professors, mention your network. Everybody's in the workshop today can mention each other. You're building connections with others, and the more engagement you actually have on Instagram, the better. So having real personal connections with people is incredibly helpful. And I can't even tell you how many academics I have met at conferences and stayed in contact with and become friends with and have collegial exchanges with, and even invitations for conferences, for example, that happen through Instagram. So I can't emphasize enough how important that is actually for careers. And one example Olga wanted me to mention also, as I've been doing quite a bit of research on hashtags for my doctorate as well, and I've interviewed many curators and many digital fashion creators, and in some cases it has drastic effects on people's careers. So one example was a curator who posted information on an exhibition she was preparing in the Netherlands, and this exhibition, as a result of an Instagram post, ended up in America at a highly prestigious museum in America. So just to give you an idea that sometimes a post that doesn't seem even that important, but because it's connecting you to the right people at the right moment in time, can be incredibly useful. So it can connect you to specific researchers, to specific people, and keep you in touch with them. But it can also help you to identify research clusters in your domain. So some of the tags that you may use would be very specific for your field and would enable you to connect to others who are doing similar research at the same time as well, but also in the past. So previous conferences, you might be able to identify who posted about a conference, who was present, who spoke through hashtags. Obviously, you want to be publishing as well. So you might be getting in touch with various journals, and that can be incredibly helpful also to direct your research into new areas, but also to make you visible. And last but not least, and I think this is so important, as academics tend to also teach, is connecting with your students. So I found it incredibly useful in my teaching, specifically until now with my teaching at the Kunstuniversität in Linz, where I've been teaching the master's students, and we communicate on Instagram all the time. So it's a very friendly relationship. I can just send them links. A lot of the time, the links tend to be visual or accounts that are useful for them that I happen upon, and then I share with them. And we have created much stronger bonds without having to exchange lengthy emails, just by sending links to each other and profiles to each other. So I do actually think that Instagram is a great platform for academia, and that hashtags can be incredibly useful for you to reach out to all these different audiences. And you might want to think about what audiences you particularly want to target. So I think one of the exercises today is going to be to think about who is your audience, who do you really want to connect with, and then tailor your hashtag, craft them according to that audience. I think you have to realize that essentially anything that's on social media is not private. So your profile is going to be public. You could have an anonymous private profile where you hide your name, But in the end, even if you have a private profile, normally you would use it to be found by other people or your friends. So if you have a profile and you just exchange with 3 people, you're not actually benefiting of what the platform can offer you. I think what the platform can offer you is great networking and great connections. And I think as an academic, you need to see yourself as a brand. And I realize that you might have privacy issues. If you have privacy issues, you might want to have a profile that has a completely different name or a very anonymous name. A lot of teenagers have that. They have an official profile for their parent that can be shared with their parents and teachers, and then they have a private profile with a completely different name or abbreviation. Personally, I think it's so much time that you invest in posting that if you invest time browsing and posting, it's more confusing if you have two. So I would recommend one. And the other reason I recommend one is also because of engagement. So your ratings on Instagram are very much related to engagement. So Instagram basically measures how much do you converse with others from your account. And that's going to happen a lot with people you know. So you could use a private account to message your friends more, and that would help you as far as your public profile goes, because Instagram can see that there's engagement and interaction happening in conversations. So that's why it's helpful to also have a personal and public one combined. But yes, I mean, no one's going to stop you from having a private, very private personal with only your closest friends. But I also recommend that even in your professional account, you would use some personal touches, because you don't really get engagement unless it's personal. So that's something relatively unfortunate with this profile, is that you open up more and you show more of your, it's more of the backstage that you would show and not just the front stage of being professional. The front stage of being professional is your LinkedIn profile. But Instagram is more like the backstage. So you're actually showing the personal side of your office. You might show the flowers in your office rather than the work on your desk. And people really bond with you because of that. So the curator I was citing as an example, who had this amazing exhibition that was transferred to the US, she actually uses her Instagram to post pictures of herself at the beach, as well as her professional work. And she says she connects with other curators on a new level because of Instagram, because it's more relaxed and it's personal. It tends to work better if you have personal touches in your profile, because Instagram is perceived as something that's personal. So if you're only posting professional items, people will not respond to you as much as if you have the occasional. I mean, you can edit it, you can do, you decide how personal you want to get, but some personal touches are recommended actually to make it authentic. And it's this feeling of it being an authentic human connection that actually makes real bonds happen. Imagine going to a conference and having a coffee with someone. You might talk about other things than just the conference, and that's kind of what Instagram is. Some of the things to consider as you're hashtagging would be, and this is something that we saw also in the word cloud for the conference we were looking at before, synonyms and spelling errors. So when you type in a hashtag, Instagram will suggest words that are close to that. It might sometimes even suggest someone else's misspelling. And it might be a good idea sometimes to use them if you're trying to reach a wider audience. So be aware that Instagram is not going to suggest something that's particularly niche, but they are based on statistics. So it's the ones that are the most widely used. So if you're trying to reach a wide audience, then the Instagram recommendations might be helpful for you. Same with singular and plural forms for the hashtags. So you might have the case of, say you put in conference, it might put in conferences in plural as a suggestion. Again, you can use both, and you will reach a wider audience if you reach both. However, if you want to make your content more niche, you might use word combinations that are creative and your own. Or you might combine words with certain acronyms and be very creative about creating your own niche group of hashtags and your own basically keyword semiosphere, as our Professor Lorenzo Contoni has expanded upon at the University in Switzerland, in Lugano. He's done a lot of research on semiospheres, which is basically how keywords envelop certain groups and create boundaries around certain groups as well. So keywords are truly a key to enter into a certain academic cluster, into a certain academic field. So you can also create your own. Say we create one for today's workshop, we might come up with something that really defines this specific group and this research interest, and it might then create a network that could be useful for you. So engagement and relevance is something we'll go into a little bit more later on, but I think I just want to first touch upon this again, that the higher the engagement, the better for you on Instagram. So high engagement means not only the number of people who follow you, it's not only quantity, but it's how enthusiastic are people about something that you post. And that goes back to your question about communicating with friends. If you have real friends, they will actually love your comments. They will actually exclaim about your comments. They will be particularly enthusiastic. So that can be incredibly helpful for you, because it actually boosts the visibility of your post, and it gives you a different rating on Instagram. So your posts then are shared more, actually, because you get higher ratings and engagement and relevance. So that's where the personal aspect becomes incredibly important, because it's sentiment analysis on the side of Instagram, where basically Instagram monitors how enthusiastic people are about your posts. So that could be through emojis or just a lot of, positive words that they use. And just so you're aware of that, I wanted to make sure that that is also something that you might engage with. When you look at other people's profiles, your engagement is boosting them. And when you have a little network of people who all are very positive about each other's content, you're actually all helping each other, and you're creating a little cluster within Instagram. So I just wanted to point that out as an additional tip.
So here we've got some Instagram tips. So the first one, identify and develop goals. So as we've already discussed, so whether you want international visibility, then you will use mostly hashtags written in English. Yeah. If you want some exchange or you want to use it for research goals, you want to find some research community, maybe in Russia, then you will use hashtags in Russian or in any other languages, French or Spanish, so on. So you should try to understand what goals you have, whether just to promote yourself or to find some useful academic communities you want to be part in.
So I think, yes, even for yourself, I think it's a good thing to write down what your goals exactly are. And one of the tricks that can help you with that is changing your profile. So I don't know if you are aware that you can actually change your profile option from private to creator. So instead of just being an individual, you can register as a creator of content. And as an academic, you are a creator of content, just like a blogger is a creator of content. And you can even decide that as an academic, you are a business because you're a brand. That's what I was trying to explain at the beginning as well, is basically you're your own brand and you're promoting this brand in academia through Twitter, through Instagram, through LinkedIn, this is what you're doing as an academic. Every time you publish, if you have a website, that's what you're doing. And Instagram helps you in this promotion. So it gives you a couple of tools. And one of the tools is if you change to a creator or a business account, you can actually receive analytics. So you get information about what happens with your posts. So this actually allows you to then tailor your content according to those analytics if you wish so. If you want to go on to the next slide, we can actually show you what that looks like. So you can find on Instagram for Business all the instructions how to change your profile to a creator or to a business account. It's completely free. And it gives you access to a professional dashboard where you can see the analytics of all your posts. So this might be something that you're interested in, especially if you're really, very career oriented and focused, but it just might be something that you're interested in out of curiosity. You can very easily change back. So it's something that you can try. I know Olga did it for a while as well. I still have it. I started my account as a business account because I also worked in the industry, and then I went from business account to creator account. As a business account, you can also have a shop, for example, which was something I used to have and don't have anymore. But the professional dashboard I found really helpful for my research on hashtags because I was able to analyze, what times were people looking at it, which days of the week, for example, was I getting more reactions. It doesn't mean your whole life has to turn around Instagram, but it might give you some insights of certain things that get more reach and get more impact and get more relevance. And it'll make you think about, okay, so this seems to work. This kind of content is, and it's not just the quantity of how many people like it, but it's also different kinds of engagement that get measured. So this is a very good idea for you to at least try, that I would like you to encourage to do. And if you want to go on to the next slide, one of the other really important things that Instagram for Business offers you is tips. So there's 3 main tips. I already mentioned engagement. So there's basically 3 things that work well on Instagram: engagement, education, and exciting content. So educate, since we're in academia, this is perfect, right? Sharing information that's educational and helping others is the same as a blogger giving beauty tips, right? Why are these beauty tips on YouTube so huge? Because it's people sharing advice. And in academia, we're actually sharing knowledge all the time. So there's no reason we shouldn't be at the very top of the influencer heap here, because we're actually sharing content. And the more content you share with your students, with other colleagues, with PhD students, content about conferences, content about exhibitions, content about books. All of that works super well and is very well received. And I can't say enough how much positive feedback I've had from sharing content and information. So education is actually a really huge one on Instagram and very successful. So very big tip. So engagement and excitement, I mentioned before, emojis, personal content. So spark curiosity, try to word it in a way that is exciting, add emojis to show how excited you are about something. If you're engaging with people, maybe even your content can be a question. Ask other people questions about their content. Have a real conversation, have a dialogue, have a real academic discussion. I mean, a lot of the times conferences can be a little stodgy, but the exciting part is when you're talking to each other during the breaks. So do the same thing on Instagram. Use it. It's a platform that's really great for connecting with people. And then the other thing I really wanted to point out, again, going back to what I was showing about the conference, the Factum conference. So what content are you interested in on a personal level on Instagram? And think about how you could maybe integrate that into your professional profile. So maybe books, like in my case, or maybe you're really into food. A lot of people love food posts. So maybe there's a way you can photograph your academic publication next to a special cup of coffee or a special meal, and that actually works really well. So I know quite a few academics, especially in the US, who are really big foodies, and they're constantly posting food, but also connected to this is the food they ate at this conference. This is the food they ate during the lunch break. This is the food that helps them get through the day when they're having a rough day and a lot of teaching to do, or how many coffees did they drink today. So all of that, that again goes back to that authentic content, and food can be great for that. So sensory content uh, of any kind can be really, really fantastic. And the other thing that you just mentioned earlier is language. Think about the languages. If you're going to a different country at the Factum conference, a couple of people posted in Italian. And suddenly you open up to a whole new field of academics who normally wouldn't find you because they just speak Italian, or they talk to each other in this little group of people in Italian. So think about the different ways that you can create content that is fun and engaging and exciting and helpful to others. So those are really suggestions from Instagram for a good reason, because they really work.
And to sum up some tips, so start using Instagram if you haven't used it, yeah? Or maybe not Instagram, any other social platform you feel comfortable with. So for your promotion in academia. And remember, it's not just your academic life, but the engagement and your personal life should be incorporated into this. Identify and develop goals. So what you are doing this for, target the audience, research and evaluate hashtags. If you want to join some community, try to find search for the hashtag of this community. Decide on the content of your posts, whether you want to educate, to give posts mostly about your what you are teaching or what you are researching. Provide pictures with relevant and engaging hashtags. Analyze the macro content reach, create meaningful impact, and try to be creative. I don't think it's really a problem for professors, because we need to be creative in our research. Yeah, we need to find out new themes for research constantly. So be creative, use emoji, acronyms, daily hashtags, and all the entertaining hashtags you can come up with. So we encourage you to start using some social platforms for your personal promotion, for the promotion of some academic events you are taking part in or you are organizing. Here you can find references. So if you are interested, you can read more about this.